Welcome, relational leaders and listeners. This is Cultivate, your podcast destination where we celebrate thriving relational leaders and encourage each other along the influence journey. I am Wendy F. Adams, your host and strategic guide. In each episode, I will engage with leaders who are sharing authentic stories that support impactful influence. I believe work shouldn't be a four-letter word, but should inspire, challenge, and fulfill. Through a high challenge and high support model, we will explore the recipe for relational leadership that drives meaningful change. You will gain insights from leaders who face the same challenges you may encounter and discover strategies to navigate them with resilience and purpose. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Janet Diodato, a seasoned human resources professional with a rich background in healthcare, hospitality, and staffing. Currently, Janet serves as the HR director at Central Arizona Shelter Services, CAS, where she leverages her vast experience to create inclusive, supportive work environments. With a bachelor's degree in business administration focused on HR management, Janet's leadership is defined by integrity, clear communication, and a deep commitment to developing others, ensuring both organizational success and employee well-being are at the forefront. If you're seeking healthy leadership engagement in an open, empowering, and authentic environment, then you're in the right place. After all, as leaders, we're either driving progress or we're driving the problem. So let's grow together. Welcome to a brand new episode of Cultivate, your catalyst for healthy leadership engagement. And today I am excited to welcome another thriving relational leader who's making a lasting impact in her sphere of influence. Welcome, Janet Diodato, HR Director at Central Arizona Shelter Services, also known as CAS, to the Cultivate experience.
Thank you, Wendy. Pleasure to be here.
You know, Janet, like all seasons of our life, and much like the way that this year is going, our time is going to fly by this afternoon. No time to delay. So I want us to jump in. And although I've had an opportunity to get a glimpse into who Janet is, I'd love for you to share with the audience a little background on your role and what CAS does to serve the community.
Absolutely. So I'm the HR director here at CAS. We're a team of 3. And we help about 85 employees help individuals experiencing homelessness. We help about 900 individuals a day, whether they're in our single adult shelter, our senior shelter, or in our family shelter. And then we have a resource center to help with move-in assistance and eviction prevention.
Wow, 900 to 3?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Right? So we're serving
900 homeless clients, but 85 employees with 3
85
HR.
employees, but yeah, that 900 is the community you serve, right? So those numbers exponentially change. Wow. Well, the conversations that we're going to have today really should tie into how does the 3 or the 1, you speak into the 3, speak into the 85, and then onto the 900. So again, let's strap on our seatbelts, folks. This is going to be good. You know, Janet, no, there's not a secret. Anyone who knows Wendy knows that I'm all about the why. Why do we do what we do? Why the mission of an organization? And so in that vein, let's take a moment to dive a little deeper into why is it that helping others, because I've heard you say this, to be their best, why is that so important to you? And how is that why directly aligned, hopefully, with what CAS is doing?
Absolutely. So I started in healthcare and I had an office manager teach me human resources. And as a human resources director, I get to develop and coach my own HR team. And then they get to develop and coach the individuals helping our clients overcome homelessness. So we all work together to make ourselves better than we were the day before and find a little more independence, whether that's through training in classes in how to learn Excel or going through job training and how to find an apartment.
Wow. Better than we were the day before. Not, that's a big goal. But when you say those words, we're not talking about better than we were when we started our career journey or better, for the next 10 years. Just let's look at yesterday and what are we going to do today? I love that incremental space that you are bringing, and I'm going to assume, but let me, that you're doing for yourself and then pouring that into to others, right? They're watching you walk that path. You're not asking them to do something that you're not doing yourself.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, your experience is pretty extensive, and the audience has been able to hear a little bit of your actual bio, and it's been across healthcare, hospitality, staffing. That's a pretty diverse background. How does that speak in and shape your approach to your leadership, and particularly in creating this inclusive and supportive work environment that you've mentioned?
I think it all kind of develops from having a role in each of those individual contributor roles and building up
Mm.
from there, whether it was myself or my team. And so helping new staff come in, see the succession planning that they can have and how their career can progress with CAS helps them to develop and become better leaders for CAS.
So, what I'm hearing you say is it's not just about the task at hand. It's not just the job description or a position description that says you're going to do this and this and that, but that you're setting up front. There's more to this. And I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but some investment maybe in what they're doing.
Definitely. We're doing a lot of investing in what our team is doing, getting that leadership skill development, getting just how to even be a better coworker to each other so that
Mm.
they build themselves up, whether they stay with CAS or move on to another organization.
Oh gosh, what a concept. We're going to build in even if you don't stay with us. Because the likelihood is this is a chapter. It's a season, right? And so I think that that's a beautiful piece to know for a teammate to recognize, wow, human resources actually sees me as the human that I am. That is to be celebrated for sure. In your role with Central Arizona Shelter Services, just because of the nature of who you're serving, the community that you're serving, they're coming with heavy challenges. They're coming to in a place where they need to be brave in that hard space. If you can share a specific example of a time when you had to balance the organizational goals with supporting your team and then navigating that with those you serve in those spaces that are hard. Like that's a lot of juggling.
There's a lot of juggling, but it varies every day. Some days
Mm.
I'm supporting our assistant director while they give a speech on the relation between trauma that individuals are experiencing and how they became homeless or what traumas they experience because they're homeless. And then we have staff that are coming from a place where they were homeless in their childhood, or maybe they're homeless now and they're coming to work, but they're living in their car. So we really have to look at the full picture and be like, do we have EAPs in place for them? Are we offering them medical care? Are we giving them all the benefits that we can, that even if the pay isn't good, we're letting it be a place where they feel safe to come into when it's, I have a manager who's going to support me. I have a job I know I can count on. I have a paycheck coming in, and I know that I'm helping others that are in a similar situation.
I heard you say, and I just want to make sure I'm clear, some of your staff actually have lived the same experiences, their story, but the same experiences as the clients in the community that you serve. Is that,
Yes.
did I hear that right?
Yeah, we have a lot of individuals who are definitely mission driven, and over 30 of our staff have been homeless in the past.
I mean, that takes it from, well, obviously that's a hard situation to know. I know. I can certainly sympathize fully with and be able to fill in some gaps really for those that they're serving. When we have shared experiences like that, there's a place of, well, you don't even have to finish that sentence. I know where you're coming from. And as HR, you are now in a very real sense, of course, supporting the community as a whole. But yeah, there's a unique space for how you support your staff members because it is so close and near and dear to them. That's, I mean, I just think sitting in that for a minute is wow. you know, Integrity. In the nonprofit space, we know how important, I mean, it is across all sectors of business, or it should be. But when we talk about, and I had this conversation with a guest not too long ago, the fact that we don't always get a great rap, let's just face it, in the nonprofit space. A lot of our PR that comes out is what's not, and how we're not doing things, with unfortunately ethics, and that integrity factor has come way down. Integrity, clear communication. Uh, how do you see those values manifest in your day to day interactions with your team? And then also having to have those conversations up with your leadership.
So, two of our values are actually integrity and communication. So, we focus on it a lot. We're actually focusing very heavily on increasing that transparency and communication. We have a new CEO who came on board, and he's definitely bringing in a lot more of those quarterly town hall style updates to
Mm.
employees, inviting them into the admin office, giving them the Zoom links, and saying, here's what we're working on, whether we're in finance, development, accounting. This is how it impacts you. This is why you're seeing different changes. And here's some things that we're thinking about, we're talking about. We may or may not bring it to fruition, but just so you know, it's on the table. What are your thoughts? Let's have listening sessions. You guys drop in your information, and we'll throw that into our strategic plan. So, and then as
Wow.
far as integrity, there's a lot. We are always trying to do the right thing at the right time, even if no one's watching, because even if it's not another employee watching, you have 900 clients watching everything you do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And keeping that forefront, not just because, well, it is the right thing to do, but making sure that we realize and recognize, well, they're not going to trust us with that big, hairy, huge life challenge that they have to, if they can't trust that what we say we're going to do is who we actually are. What that mission is actually what we're walking out. I heard you say two of my favorite words: strategic planning, because they need to go hand in hand, and making sure that what we're walking out is something that's well thought out and has meat behind it. But what I thought was really interesting is you brought strategic planning into the same conversation with frontline team members. Like, bringing, what do you think? This is what we're thinking about. So what brought that about in your leadership? Was that pre your time, or is that something that you've helped to develop for leadership to recognize how important it is to bring that conversation early to the table?
I think the unique part of us is we all have come from different organizations. So I came from a hospitality group where we had an
Hmm.
employee committee, and that was HR's way of speaking to those frontline individuals. Our CEO started at the front line at another organization and worked his way up to the head of programs, and now he's our CEO. So he knows what it's like to be on the front lines, and he was like, they have a lot of information, they have a lot of knowledge. Let them give that to us, and we can all start on how are we going to make this a better organization for them and the clients. So it's definitely a combined effort. That collaboration is really there.
Kudos, kudos. Well, I never want to gloss over, obviously, the celebration, and we've heard a lot about how you are intentionally meeting the needs of the community that you serve, externally and internally. But I also know that we collectively as humans do a lot of growth in the hard, in the stuff that's the challenge and the hurdles. So I want to kind of dig into that a little bit. And how do you cultivate an environment where your team members feel that they're empowered to grow within the organization, when there may be, they share an idea, and either it's not received well, or it's a not right now, but they don't feel like, well, was there even a point to doing that? How do you speak into that?
We definitely just kind of say, this is the idea you brought in. These are some things that we're going to face trying to bring this on. We have a
Hmm.
shared community where our downtown location is, and we had two different requests that were like, we should have reserved parking. We should have employee of the month parking. And I was like, true, but there's 16 different organizations that all work here. And sometimes
Hmm.
it's people coming and going. So if I reserve a spot for an employee of the month who works 4 days a week, so the other 3 days a week someone else can't park in that spot, that really limits our ability for employees to find a spot to park. And if we all did that, we'd have 16 less parking spots, which means you have 16 people driving around instead of helping individuals overcome their homelessness. So we have a lot of changes, a lot of things that happen. And then we even have to just do a lot of updates. We just opened a homeless shelter for seniors in December.
Hmm.
We had our grand opening in January, and that allowed employees to come to the grand opening and hear like what was going on over the last 3 years. And during those 3 years, we really emphasized, at least over the last year, these are the obstacles we faced, whether it's plumbing or roofing repairs and
Mm.
meeting different codes and different changes in codes so that we can open the shelter and serve more individuals. All of that information had to be communicated. And that also helped the staff understand, hey, I took this job 3 months ago and this place hasn't opened yet. And giving them that communication lets them know, oh, this is the reason why I'm still training at another location before I move over. And then making sure that that training they get is really impactful and it's actually helping them for when they move over.
Well, one of the things that, gosh, you gave such richness in that answer. I can pull 15 things out of there. I want to go back to where you actually started because it made me chuckle on the inside. So we got to come back to it. You We talk about communication and how it has to be clear, right? Being seen and heard, that's a basic human need that we all have. So when it was, hey, I want a space to be like, recognize me as employee of the month. I want a place to park because we all know parking can be a nightmare wherever you are. I love that your response was you took a parking lot conversation, a space, and brought it back to the mission. You brought it back to that why. Like, okay, but now we got people not serving because we're talking about 16 spots that we can't touch. I love that. Again, we all know Wendy loves the why, but what a way to say this isn't a personal thing. This is not, I'm not picking on. You have been heard. That'd be a great thing. We all want to pull into our spot, be star of the month. But how does that affect the overall mission? And is it a positive or is it detracting? I don't know. We have time for like what was that response, but if you could, like, was that received in a way that scratched the head or oh, well, okay. Did you get any feedback in it or did it just kind of fall flat?
No, it actually was pretty well received. One individual was new. They've only been here for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
The other individual's been here for over 8 years, and at least one of them have experienced homelessness in the past. So as soon as you bring it back to the mission, they're like, definitely makes sense. And the other individual's like, okay, this has been brought up before. They already have a solution, and this is why we're not going to do it. So I think they definitely understood, and they're like, so if that idea is not going to work, I also have this idea. So it just kind of goes back and forth of how we can recognize each other and still support each other.
Well, I love that it didn't deter. But wait, there's more. But wait,
Right.
there's right. It didn't. It and I say that, and we do have to keep some lighthearted. But the fact is, in human resources, you have to say some hard no's. I mean, harder than a parking space. But when you can do it in such a way, again, that someone does feel valued, heard, seen, and they can say, okay, maybe not the answer I wanted, but I know this is a place where I can ask and I can speak out and I will be heard. To get that next request, I should have felt good, I would hope to you, right? Like, oh, they didn't feel shut down. So that is an exciting space. Again, hard things, hard no's to get to the better yeses and keep us focused on the why. Look, I say this and I've picked up on it from you and again in the bio. Leadership is leadership. And you've had the opportunity to work on both sides, nonprofit and for-profit sector. What key leadership lessons have you learned that you feel can be applied universally? Doesn't matter, to be able to foster that engagement and really drive positive outcomes internally and then externally.
Think a lot of it has to do with sometimes you have to kind of just state the problem, ask the question, and then just hush. Listen for the employee to give you the feedback and actually listen for a solution and then work collaboratively with each other. So
We're finding a common theme. Another guest shared not too long ago. Just be quiet. Just leave some space for that margin to okay, let's mull on that. Again, seen and heard, we don't want to ignore, but just be quiet in the space. We don't always just have to have an answer, is what I'm hearing from you. And I think that's one of the things in leadership, um, because we can get to that place and space where, if not, we're responding in emotion. And we all know those feelings are real, but they're not always intelligent, right? That's just the truth of the matter. Well, I appreciate that. And I think that speaks into that space of how to empathize, right? So in what I hear from you in your leadership style, when you're working with individuals in these places of challenge, right? And we know it's not check it at the door. Those words used to be said, and maybe they still are somewhere, but the whole human comes to the office. So how does empathy play a role in your leadership style?
I think it really is that listening and that communication. If you're sitting in an office and your employees don't know who you are, it's really hard to
Mm.
relate to them. It's really hard to give them any empathy. If you're out walking around through the shelter and even just saying, hello, how are you, bringing them a snack, they get to see you as a person and they're like, oh, you know what? That's not the big bad wolf in the office that's one day going to fire me or write me up. Then they feel more comfortable around you and they're able to bring their concerns to you, and it builds that rapport in that relationship. So just kind of being there and being supportive kind of makes that a two-way line of communication.
Am I hearing you say your open door policy is an actual open door?
You know, it's sometimes not always open. Sometimes when I'm in my office, I got to work on a task so my door is closed, and people probably see it closed a lot. But then when I'm out and about, then I'm always open to that communication. And if my door is open, yeah, stop in, talk. So
I love that. I love that. That's a healthy boundary. I mean, and that's something that you're emulating that we we all need to be reminded of. I mean, because you're being asked again by your leadership, but also by team and staff for things. And to be able to execute on those activities, you got to have time to be able to do it. And, again, you're actually serving them well when you're not able to take every single question with the door being open, because you're given the time that's needed to come back with solution or suggestion to let them know they were seen and heard. So I love that you spoke that out and didn't just say, "Oh yeah, come on in anytime." And sometimes the closed door still doesn't tell people that. But anyway, that's a different podcast. So you have a lot that's being asked of you, like your team of three. That there's the nuts and bolts of a new teammate prospectively coming on. We talk about bringing new people on and the onboarding process, and that looks different across organizations. You want to maintain a high standard of performance within your team, and then meeting the needs of those 85 folks who now are meeting the needs of 900 people. What does that look like for you as a leader? What things are you finding that you need to put in place so that you can maintain high standards, so in turn you can continue to push that forward in your team?
I feel like I'm talking about communication a lot, but that's really what it boils down to. We have, even when new hires are coming on board, they speak to our recruiter, who's our HR admin assistant.
Mm.
He's setting them up for the screenings and the interviews. And then he passes them to our HR generalist, who does the actual orientation and follows through on, do you have the certifications? Have you completed the HRIS onboarding system? And then when we actually have orientation, I and the rest of the leadership team come in throughout the week to talk to the individuals, tell them what it is that we do, and give them that broader sense of communication. And then the week that it's not orientation, I'm working one on one with my own team and saying,
Mm.
okay, this is how you recruited somebody. This was in the offer letter. This is how we could have rewarded that offer. This is what we want to make sure we're careful with those interview questions. And then also double checking of, hey, you missed this certification. What's the step we can do? What outline can we make? What checklist can we do so that you have that piece? And then there's the follow ups and the onboarding check ins. And how can we kind of do a full circle where employees don't forget who HR is after that first week? And we're saying, hey, how's your second week going? What do you have as far as questions that are going to come up on your 90-day review? Or what are your goals? Are you thinking about that for your anniversary that's popping up? So always kind of being there and kind of managing that performance within my own team, and then setting those expectations and making sure that both the employees and my team know what's expected of them, where are they headed, and the why of everything, and just having that constant communication.
Well, and you said it. You're like, I feel like I'm just always coming back to community because it's so communication's so core and it's so key, right? From the moment that someone clicks the button and submits their application, I'm interested in. You've opened that first portal of how are we going to communicate? What is this going to look like? You said the word expectations. What can I expect even in the process? Well, after you application received, do they hear something back from you? What time frame can they expect when they sit down and talk and have the interview? Yeah, I love to ask the question. Well, how, what time frame are we looking at filling this position? Where are you? Of course, they're not going to pull every application out and said, well, we're looking at these 12, but you're right. That tells right from the beginning, one, how mutual of a relationship is this going to be? Or is it one-sided? So I think there's no apologies at all, not from you or any of us when we're like, yeah, that's why communication is so key because it's from the beginning all the way through the process. And I love the how's your second week because sometimes you're like, well, filled out all the paperwork, won't see HR again, until the dread if it's dreaded at that point in time or open enrollment, which is also fun. So,
Absolutely.
your story and what you've shared and the journey that you've been on, again, both in the for-profit and nonprofit space, you've got a commitment to developing others. Like that is just your philosophy and it pours through. And that's wonderful. And again, so much to be celebrated. How do you, in your current role, identify potential leaders on your team? And then that spreads out to if you're, talking to hiring managers and as they're looking at maybe new positions or that they are in need of or filling something as that's empty, what steps do you take to ensure that they have the right support to make a successful decision?
Of course. So I have that open communication with employees. I talk to them. I ask them, what are you doing this weekend? When I find out they're in school, I ask them, how are their classes going? What are they studying?
Mm.
What are they interested in? We even bring that up in orientation and onboarding because I know a lot of people will forget, what are the other benefits I get with this job? Do I get tuition reimbursement? No one thinks about that. They think, am I getting PTO? Am I getting insurance? And those are great. We have great partnerships for that. But if you bring it back to that tuition piece, then you can say, okay, we have professional development here. We have tuition reimbursement. If you're interested in learning more about Excel or you're an HR generalist and you want to learn payroll, even though that falls under finance, here's a Google certification you can do. Here's PayTrain we can teach you on. So kind of asking them questions, learning about what interests them, and then following back up with them and saying, hey, I found this great program. I have managers who are doing a Spark middle management collaborative that our
Hmm.
CEO forwarded to our program director, and then I forwarded it to the managers. And then I said, okay, this is about, it's from the Housing Coalition, but maybe our facilities team wants to go to that. Maybe the HR generalist wants to go to that. And both of them signed up. So now we have a collaborative group of a mixture of people from different departments who are going to go to this training. And then when I get different things, I just forward them and say, hey, I saw this. This looked great. It's about how are managers coddling employees. Do you guys want to join this webinar? I'm going to watch it with my HR team, and then a manager will stroll in and throw it up on the TV, and we're all just watching it to see what can we learn from each other, from the questions and answers in there, and then just kind of circling back. So it's just bringing those ideas and looking into what resources are available and pairing that up with the right employee.
And you're not saying one department needs this more than the other. We're not picking on, we're not calling, right? The opportunity is there. I love you mentioned two departments that you don't think of together. I mean, the organization needs both of those but you don't
Absolutely.
think of them being in the same space. And do we have a need to learn the same thing? Absolutely. And then I love that you spoke out so that we can learn from one another. So it's not just about what's coming across from the screen, but now what we've heard. How does that play out here at CAS for, again, the overall mission? Janet, we could go on and I think the audience would join us in it. But time is that precious gift that we don't have enough of. So, I mean, as we close out, I like to say this is like the big hairy audacious question at the end. We're talking about healthy leadership engagement, right? Being a relational leader. Again, I love that your experience spans um, throughout so many different sectors of work. What advice would you offer to leaders who are desiring and maybe struggling to maintain balance between driving organizational goals and supporting their team's growth? Like, what does that look like for you? And that you would just give as, hey, here's a piece of advice.
I think it would just be talk to your staff more. There's a lot of people that have a lot of ideas,
Hmm.
and maybe I'm not going to think of, hey, this ice machine leaks, and that's going to be a slip hazard. I'm going to think of that because I'm HR and safety's on my mind. But if I was a different department, I was in finance, maybe I wouldn't think about that. But going out and talking to individuals who aren't in your department and seeing what affects them opens your eyes to the bigger picture, and you get a better context of what's going on.
Well, again, we continue to come back to a couple of really key foundational spaces, communication, of course, being one of them. And, that every voice matters, and making sure that we're creating a space for people to be able to share that, even when it's not an answer that they may want. I mean, I want my parking space. Well, not today. And here's why. I love that. Janet, thank you so much. You've shared your relational leadership journey and you've given us an insight and inside look to the incredible work that's happening at Central Arizona Shelter Services. It's just been such a pleasure having you.
It's been great being here, Wendy. Feel free to reach out anytime.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for our guests who are listening, what would you like to share if they want to connect, whether they're in your area or they just want to learn more about CAS? What's the best way to do that?
So if they want to connect with me, LinkedIn's great. I accept everybody mostly. And then if you want to get involved with CAS, you could go to www.casaz.org. And then there's a link called Get Involved, and that's everything from donations, volunteering, applying for a job, and we'll compare you with everyone else to pair you up.
Wow. Well, it sounds fantastic. I think everyone should take that opportunity to learn more. And as we finish out each of our shows, I am reminded constantly. I love relational leadership and bring in the conversation. We each bring our own special flavor to that mix of relational leadership and that recipe. So I just want to charge everyone until the next time, let's keep stirring things up so we can be better together. Thanks so much. Have a great one.
Thank you. Bye, Wendy.
Before we sign off today, I want to send out huge appreciation to our listeners for tuning in. I hope you felt seen, heard, and inspired to level up your own leadership journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you're ready to level up your leadership, asking for a friend, or interested in being a guest on the show, connect with me at cultivateforgood.com. That's cultivateforgood.com. Remember, as leaders, we're either driving progress or we're driving the problem. So let's grow together.